Welcome to the fourth in a series of electrification seminars under the banner of Electrify Your Life, offered by Elders Climate Action. My name is Robert Whitehair, and it is my good fortune to introduce to you today Chef Rachelle Boucher. For those of you who are new to Elders Climate Action, we are grandparents, great uncles, and great aunts, and everyday folks who are determined to do all we can to leave a livable planet for future generations and all life. Our programs, communications, and chapters are focused on engaging others in solving the climate crisis. At ECA, we are elder-centered and volunteer-driven, seeking to inform, inspire, and engage older generations to take action on the climate crisis at the local, state, and federal levels. In our Electrify Your Life seminars over the last year, we offered one seminar with an overview of electrification and another with a detailed look at heat pumps. At our last seminar on December 3rd, we included 4 breakout rooms: how to start the electrification journey, tips for selecting a contractor, another on rebates and funding, and a fourth on how to find an electrification coach. Links to this information are available on the ECA website, which we will give to you. It also provides hands-on ideas and recommendations that you can have for electrification. You will receive in the next few days a link to the video recording, one that you can pass on to your friends, families, and neighbors. You will receive written answers to your chat questions, including the ones we get to today. And I can say at this time, we will take questions in the chat, and then I'm going to curate them and give them to Chef Rachelle. I first met Chef Rachelle a few years ago in Half Moon Bay, California, not far from me. She's coming to you today from Brunswick, Maine.
Yeah.
Chef Rachelle is enthusiastic about induction cooking, as you will find out in a few minutes. She is a senior lead for culinary experience and events for the Building Decarb Coalition, that's Building Decarbonization Coalition, whose mission is to bring people and organizations together to advance the transition to a clean energy future. Rachelle's list of accomplishments is so long, I could probably spend the whole next hour talking about all she has done, but you want to see her and hear from her. With that, I'm very pleased to welcome Chef Rachelle Boucher coming to us from Brunswick, Maine, and welcome to all the rest of you on the call today. Chef Rachelle, over to you.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to we kind of worked side by side when we were in Half Moon Bay, and that was really fun. I was cooking and you were doing the incredible advocacy that you do. And it's just really a pleasure to be here. I am coming from Brunswick, Maine. My husband and I moved this May from the Bay Area. We were 30 years in the beautiful Bay Area, and now we are in gorgeous Brunswick, Maine. I was born in Maine, and I have to tell you, I'm really amazed because Maine is so ahead on electrification. It is an honor and a joy to be here, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And Maine is also very much about elders. It really, there are programs and mindsets and just cultural institutions here that are really wonderful. I was born in Maine, went away for many years, and now I'm back. And I'm honored to be closer to my mom. My mom lives nearby, and she's actually a beneficiary of one of the programs that I'm going to talk about. But what we're going to do today, I'll tell you a little bit about what we're going to do. Yes, you mentioned I have a long tail of electrification. It's been really special. And I'll talk a little bit about history and context just to tell you kind of where I come from. But more importantly, why I got so passionate about this, about induction cooking and decarbonization as a whole, and how I got to work for the Building Decarbonization Coalition. It's a great adventure. And then I'm going to definitely define induction a little bit, talk about the simple science. Many of you might know something about this, but I'm sure you have a lot of questions. And then I'm going to cook a holiday friendly or a dish that's great all year round. Actually, it's a green bean dish, but it's also fun. Happens to be December here right now. And so it is actually very kind of holiday centric. It's, green beans holiday. It's a good thing. So it's really, really good to see everybody. I'm excited. I'm almost an elder. I'm almost there, y'all. So yes, I am in a very special building. I want to tell you a little bit about this building. I'm in a building, when we moved to Maine, being that I'm an environmentalist and I really, really believe in building electrification, I was actually able to find an electric powered building. I am at the Sandpiper Residence in Brunswick, Maine. It is a 66 unit building, including workforce housing, and standard apartments. And it is an electric powered building. There is induction cooking, not only in several of the units, there's also electric. We're going to talk today about the difference between what people know, and Robert, what you referred to in the writing as like not your grandma's induction or electric. We'll talk about standard electric cooking and induction, the differences there. So this building has both. I am honored to have induction in my own apartment, as well as I am in the lounge, and this is a community space for this building, and it features an all electric kitchen. So, I mean, what a win, right? But I do want to talk about one other thing. You know, Building Decarbonization Coalition, which you mentioned, we are about all of building electrification. So I want to talk about a few other aspects, and then we'll get right into cooking. And Robert, I'm going to share with you something you can send out to the whole group. But our organization, we are really leading the charge of building electrification, bringing together all kinds of stakeholders, from environmental groups, government groups, manufacturers, all together for a sustainable future. And it's really exciting to be living in a building that personifies that. But I do want to talk about something. We have a resource. We just finished our Building Decarb 2024 wrapped poster or a post. So I will share that with everybody, because we are definitely looking at some government changes over the next several years, but we have some really exciting things that have happened in 2024 that are really, really finding incredible momentum. And one of them is definitely induction cooking. The other one is heat pumps. And I want to mention this because this is the first time, y'all, that I've had a full-on winter out there. It is full of snow in about 30 years. I have never been more warm and more comfortable in my life. This is the first time I get to live with heat pumps, and it is remarkable. My mom, who's on a fixed income, was actually her home was upgraded from a program by Efficiency Maine, which is a very special thing in Maine. Efficiency Maine was able to give her a heat pump and ventilation and some insulation. So whether I'm here in my building enjoying the amazing warmth and cooling in the summer from a heat pump, it does both. Also, it's the same at my mom's home. So I want to thank Maine and Efficiency Maine for not only making that possible, but for making rebates possible for this building. So there's a lot of good news out there when it comes to building electrification. But let's talk about induction, okay? So I've been a corporate chef in the appliance world for many, many, many years. So it was my job to work on all the appliances. Y'all, I fell madly in love with induction cooking 10 years ago. So Robert, and you and I saw this in 2019 with the first ordinances that really started in California for building electrification. I knew at that moment, my experience as a chef in the appliance industry, as well as I was a private chef for many years, I knew it would come in really handy, because as all of you know, Robert, you and I actually talked about this. People don't really worry that much about whether they change out all of their other appliances. But when you get into the kitchen, there is such a myth about gas cooking, that it is all of these, more powerful and better, that I am here to share my passion for what induction is able to do better, faster, and more sustainably. So let's get right into it. What is induction cooking? Well, I'm going to talk about that, but I want to bust a few myths. It is a type of electric, right? We talked about that. But as we said, it is very different than the coil that my mom has at her place, or the flat top, what we call resistance in electric. So if you take a look here, it looks very similar to that. It looks much like that flat top resistance electric, but it's very, very different. The way that it works is this. I'm going to actually turn it on. So first of all, it's very, very safe, and I'm going to go through these things more, but I just want to show you something really quickly. This is a cast iron pan. I put the cooktop on, and then I turned it on to the very highest heat because I'm going to show you something. But just to save a little bit of time, I get a lot of questions about whether you can char peppers. So induction is much faster and much more responsive than even professional gas or high BTU gas. British Thermal Units describes that gas power. So I want to show you that I was able to char peppers. We get a lot of questions of, can you char peppers? Can you char tortillas? So I got these done ahead of time. Just because we have to have the ventilation on. I am going to talk about air quality, I promise. But I just turned that on, and I don't know if you can hear, there's already some sizzling. So look how fast. Now we're going to talk about cookware in just a minute. But the way that this is working, and I'm going to switch this out just for a moment here. 1 second. Hold, please. Let me just slide this over. I'm going to put this so you all can see that a little bit better. So this is room temperature water. Now, what I'm going to do is, as I'm describing how this works, I'm also going to start cooking. So I'll jump around a little bit, but pretty good at getting back on target. So like I said, I turned this cooktop on, and then I've turned it on to the highest setting. This is a good amount of water. This is a lot. What I'm going to do, the dish that I'm going to do is a green bean recipe. And what I'm going to do, which is really fun, is I'm going to boil the water, really high heat. We're going to blanch those green beans, right? Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to char them in the cast iron. Then I'm going to saute a bunch of mushrooms. Then I'm going to finish it all. And this is optional, Robert, because I know many people are vegan. I will finish it with a little butter, very optional. And that is on a very low heat. And the reason I love this recipe, this is a charred green bean and mushroom dish. And I really love it because it shows the very highest to the most subtle heat. So I don't know if you can see in here, but this is already starting to boil. So let me back up to what induction is and how it works. So unlike the older style electric, which is still better than gas in terms of safety and human safety, it is what is happening here is there is a very low and safe magnetic connection that is being made with my pan. So underneath here, you can't see it, but there are copper coils. That makes a direct magnetic connection when I put the cooktop on, and then I have to put a magnetic pan on top. How do you test that? You use a magnet. If a magnet sticks to the bottom of your pan, you are in business, right? So the magnet test, and we'll talk a little bit more about cookware in a moment, but what this is doing is making a very safe magnetic connection directly with the pan. This turns directly into heat inside my pan. So I want to show you something remarkable. Instead of having
Chef, let me interrupt you just for a second. My hats is off to the cameraman. He's doing such a great job. I want to remind folks that you can put your questions in the question and answer tab down at the bottom. I'm looking at that. I will curate those questions and I'll get them to you, Rachelle.
Absolutely. Feel free to ask questions as we go. It doesn't throw me at all. But I want to show you something from a safety perspective. You see that we almost have a boil. This induction is upwards of 85% to 90% efficient. What that means is that 90% of the energy is creating this heat. Instead of the heat coming all around here, going onto me, going onto the handles, gas is about 35% efficient. So if you talk about, 20,000 BTUs, you've got to take about 65% of that away That is going to go into the air, into the room. It's going to make you have to cool yourself down. And it also goes onto the handles. Much, much less efficient. And you can see this is already boiling. Now, as I was showing you, this is a cotton towel. Look at that. I can keep that right there because again, this is not heating up and then transferring some of that heat here. It is creating heat within the pan. So you've got incredible safety, right? So my first thing when I talk about induction cooking is power and control. When you think about gas, of course, we think about power and control. We've been talking about that since the 80s, right? Look at this, incredibly fast. Robert, you talked about pasta earlier. I mean, how fun and fast to be able to cook up your pasta this quickly. And for me, look at this. I am not catching on fire, y'all. The other thing that is in the second part of this, which is the safety and wellness factor for induction, check this out. I can literally touch those handles. Now, over time, my cast iron handle will get hot, but it takes a lot longer. So you have power and control. Not only do I come up to heat so much faster, but watch this. This is the part that I love. When I turn it off, it goes off almost instantaneously. Now you can think about how that level of power and safety and control can really make cooking easier, faster, safer. So let me put this right back on because it's going to come right up to temperature. Now, Robert, remind me later on, let's talk in more depth about cookware because it is a question that comes up more. But for right now, let me
I will do that. I have a question from Joanne. Is
Yes.
induction cooking noisy? Is the stove noisy? I guess is the question.
Joanne, that's an amazing question. Let me answer that in a moment. So let's do this. So I've got green beans. This is about 12 ounces of green beans. And we're just going to blanch these really quickly. Now, when I worked in restaurants, we would have a big pot of water just boiling away. And whenever we wanted to cook pasta, whatever, we would actually just lower that into that pot of water. So I actually do that a lot. When I have a big pot of water cooking, I will blanch a whole bunch of things in it. It's just a habit. But Joanne, I promise I'll answer your question. One of the things, though, from a cooking perspective, because this happens quickly, if you all notice, I have all of my stuff prepped up in advance. When you start cooking on this, you're going to probably burn something the first couple of times because it goes so quickly. So let's do this. I am blanching these beans. One of the things that you want, and let's turn that down just because I can't, I'll turn this off. One of the things that you want is you want your water to recover quickly. And what that means is if you put your green beans, especially with green vegetables, right? That is chlorophyll, and you want that chlorophyll to stay nice and bright. And to do so, you want your water to recover very quickly. Well, induction is amazing for that because your boil is going to come right back. What's happening? Yep. Okay, great. So cool. I just had a little microphone. So here we go. Promise I'll get back to cookware. I just want to finish this. So I've taken this out. What I'm going to do is take these green beans and just put them, because I'm going to char these. So I'm going to put them on a clean towel because when they go into the pan, they're going to char up. Okay. So when it comes to noise, sorry, not cookware, noise. When it comes to noise, Joanne, there's a couple of factors to it. Let me define a few, let me give you a few definitions of word definitions so you know what I'm talking about. Water is, I'm just going to put this back here. Okay, so I'm going to move this over so y'all can see. So when it comes to noise, there are a couple of factors, and I'll show you. This cast iron pan or that pan that I had, sometimes you will get a sound or a noise that comes from the pan, all right? So these are quite silent, the cast iron, my pan there. This little pot, it's a very light pot, and it's not the noise is not really a factor of cost. It's just how the pot is manufactured. When I put this little pot on, I hear, so these are both on. This gives a whirring, whizzing. You probably can't hear it, but it's pretty high pitched. And that is by nature of the pan and how it is interacting with this cooktop. This pan is silent. Cast iron is not expensive. And so that is one factor. Sometimes when I turn it off, you don't hear it at all, right? What I'm doing over here, just so you all know, I'm heating this pan up because I'm going to char my green beans. So one factor can be how the cookware is manufactured. Another thing is sometimes, and let me put those definitions in. This is a cooktop. A cooktop fits into the countertop, and it can be gas, electric, induction, many types. So that is what this is. This is a cooktop. You also then have a range. A range is the cooktop and the oven all in one unit. They can be a slide-in or a built-in. They can be simple or pro style, right? And I got to get ready to do my beans. The last thing, and the reason I'm defining this is so you know what I'm talking about when we talk about noise. The last thing are the plug-in units that are called sometimes burners. I call them a hob or an induction, a countertop induction plug-in. Sometimes those can be a little whistly. They can sometimes make noise because it's just, again, it's sort of the manufacturer of that particular unit. So sometimes you get noise. By being able to test them out, you can find out what works or not for you. So let me just get back here because this is coming up to temperature really quickly. Now, you do not have to char these. You can just saute them. Saute means jump. I put some high heat oil in there. And again, I dried these out because they're going to get very hot very quickly. Couple of things that I want to point out is that you can put quite a bit into this pan without it losing heat. It is going to, and to char these, I'm just going to let them sit for a moment and get some of that surface, just touch the surface. So saute means jump. So if I want to move these around, not get as much char on the bottom, I can saute them. So any questions coming up, Robert, while I'm charring?
Yes, we have an easy question. I think the first one is, how do you clean the top? The cooking service, this is Wendy. She says she hates using harsh chemicals. She'd want to know kind of an easy, environmentally friendly way to clean the cooktop. And then I have another question.
Absolutely. Wendy, let me tackle that question towards the end because I have some show and tell and some props. But trust me, cleaning is one of my favorite topics. Now,
yeah, another question I'm having, if you're ready, is how does the cooktop know what size pan to use? Quite a few questions about that. Some brands apparently don't work as well as others. I know in the old red resistance coil type, you had settings. How does that work on induction? How does the stovetop know what size?
That's an excellent question. Let me season and answer at the same time. Notice too, something fun. I don't worry about putting my salt and oil and things on top of my cooktop. It's pretty cool. I promise I will answer that question, but I hope you can see that I've got some beautiful charring here. I mean, that is something that is so special. And again, I'm not getting hot. So that's a bonus. Let me just take these out because I will answer that question while I char up some mushrooms. So it's usually the human that should know about the size of the cookware. And what I mean by that is there are many, many types and new technologies about induction that are happening right now. There are units that have all the same size inductors all the way across. There are units that have large and small. This one has some smaller and some larger sized inductors, or AKA burners. By the way, this right here, I hope you guys can see, that is my lion's mane mushroom. This is from a Maine company. It's grow my own in my own home. I know, I'm so fancy and chefy. I love, Robert, this is a very vegan friendly thing. I love lion's mane mushrooms, and I just started growing this. This is from a company called North 4. It is a Maine company, and you can order them online. You can get your own DIY kit. I have had this for no more than a week and a half, and I have a huge crop of mushrooms. So I promise I will get back to answering that question. Let me just get the food in the pan. So my lion's mane has, it is having its moment, as is induction cooking. It has a lot of health benefits. And it also chars up really beautifully. And so it's one of the reasons I love to show it, because it really can be almost utilized like a steak. I also have from North Spore. Maine just has the most fun makers and people at my local market. It's pretty amazing. So I've got all these mushrooms, and one thing that is really exciting, same thing that I sort of will reiterate, is that it doesn't matter how much I put in this pan. I think we have all sauteed a couple too many mushrooms, right? And all of a sudden it gets all wet and watery. And that can happen. Let me put a little shiitake in there too. Again, because this pan gets so hot and the heat recovers so fast, I can literally fill this pan with mushrooms and I'm still going to get color and char. So back to the question. So how do you know, or how does the cooktop know? There's quite a bit of new technology happening where, like I said, you can have larger or smaller burners, and that's the same with like gas and old electric. You can, there's a, fancy cooktop by Thermador that has, you can cook anywhere on the surface and it will literally read the size of your pan and adjust. It's quite remarkable. That's called the Thermador Freedom Cooktop, and it is really, really fun. But come back. But one thing, and I have to turn this off. Like I can't, this is good. So my mushrooms are browning up just gorgeously. And that is absolutely game changing when it comes to this. Meanwhile, let me just put my shallot in. So I have a whole bunch of mushroom, about 3 ounces. I'm going to add a little bit of butter, but again, it can absolutely be done vegan. And there we go. And one of the things that's really exciting, again, when we talk about control, is that once I turn this off and I put my shallots in, I'm not worried about them burning. And I mean, how many of us burn garlic? Yeah, all of us. I've burned it 1,000 times. What is so fun is this is off. I have so much control over how my shallots and my garlic cook that it's really game changing. I don't have to move it. I don't have to lift it up, pick it up, and I can hover over it a lot more safely. So it smells amazing, y'all. And I can just get right into this pan and smell it. So I don't have all of that like leached out liquid that is in here from those mushrooms. I just have incredible control. So back to that question about the size of this, I purposely chose, because I have very big cookware, I purposely chose this front inductor because it is larger, okay? Now, again, I've turned this right back up to heat. We've got the mushrooms. We've got the charred green beans. I'm actually going to turn this off. So you've seen that very, very high heat from the boil and the char. We've then just kind of turned this up and down. I feel like a DJ sometimes where I can have so much control. And then I can turn this right off and we'll keep going. So it is up to when you are picking your appliance, your induction, you want to think about how you cook. Do I need all of the same thing when you're buying, gas or electric or anything, is thinking about the size and the cookware that you use and all of that. Do you want to, have like a few larger ones? Are you more comfortable with the larger one being in the front? I am, because I have short arms, right? So this is really beautiful. Now,
But let me add a little bit on that, Chef. When we
yes,
bought
please.
when we bought our induction range, what we found was there's various sizes of what you call the hob. We have a 3,500 watt hob in the front. It's very large size, very, very useful. We also have a combination griddle where two work together to heat a griddle.
Absolutely.
All kinds of things are available in the market. Frigidaire, GE, Thermador, a lot of them make various brands. You do a little shopping, you get out there and have fun. The big box stores sell LG and they sell Samsung. All really good questions to be asking and thinking about what do you want in the form of a range.
Without a doubt. And I want to let you know, I put fresh nutmeg in this, and I'm just using lemon zest. That's just the outer part of the lemon. Lemon juice will denature, turn that chlorophyll, change the color of that chlorophyll over time. And then, Robert, I'm going to do one quick thing here. And this is just, again, this is just a cooking technique. You do not need to add butter to this. I'm just going to add a little butter, and then this is, or a little water, and then cold butter. And this is called beurre monté. And your beurre monté is an emulsified butter that you put, it's a little bit of water and a little bit of butter. And then you just toss it and coat it. And it's a very French restaurant-y thing to do. Again, does not need to have butter for this to taste amazing. I use a lemon oil as a finisher, vegan and phenomenal. So, but I really want to show you all of those levels of cooking control. But absolutely, Robert, I got to do a really fun, I want to talk about a program that I founded, actually. It's very exciting, with the Building Decarbonization Coalition, that relates to what we were just talking about. Oh, this is beautiful. Many of us at the Building Decarbonization, or the BDC, we can call ourselves, we really understand that a lot of the entryway to the all-electric home can often be through the kitchen, right? The heart of the home. And so I get to train chefs across the country to do this very work. We have a program called the Cheffluencers, and we have 45 chefs across the country, all different culinary backgrounds, from second-generation Mexican-American chefs. We have Laotian chefs. We have Filipino chefs, and all kinds of people in between. And it is so fun when we all get together. We learn about induction cooking, but more importantly, we learn about the bigger picture of why induction. And it's really fun. And so I got to go take a couple of our cheffluencers to the Energy Star program partners meeting this year. And we worked on the LG range, which is what, $1,100, and it's fabulous. We got to work on the Samsung new induction full range, which I think was $1,400, phenomenal. It was so much fun, and we got to work across, and the Electrolux, fabulous. Same thing, about $1,100. So with your price points, currently in the US, induction is more expensive. However, it is seeing double-digit sales growth year over year, especially this last year. It hit such a stride. People are starting to understand the power and control, the safety, the wellness. We'll talk about that a little bit more. and it's getting really exciting. And Robert, you mentioned something important, that while it is really important to the big box stores definitely have something, don't make sure also take a look at some of your local appliance stores that you have, because while the big box stores are fantastic, there's a lot, the price points are the same almost everywhere you go. And sometimes with induction, you're going to want somebody that has a bit of appliance experience that can really walk you through, like you said, Robert, talking about watts, installation, and all of those things. So sometimes your local retail environment is going to be a great place where you can really sit down and plan out your purchase. So a little bit of an insider tip there.
We have quite a few questions in the chat about the controls that
Yes.
you're using during the cooking. You know, what controls for this, what controls for that. Can the cameraman actually zoom in on that, or can you talk about what control settings you're on? Because I know it varies by stove, but you could, a lot of questions about that.
Yep. So I'll show you all this one again. So this, when you have induction, it has to go on, and then you have to choose your location. So the cooktop goes on, your location, you have to have an induction friendly pan on there. So there's several steps of safety. And then this is going to come on really fast. So you can see that's already starting to boil again. Really great. So yeah, so now I'm going to turn it right off. And again, you'll see that instantaneous. What might be harder to see is there's heat indicator lights. And the different types of induction have them in different places. This says the word hot. Sometimes there are heat indicator lights on the side or around that particular induction hob that you were using. So there are different visuals. Now, for many people, this is a touch screen. For many people, knobs are greatly preferred. I completely get that. There are so many cooktops and ranges that have knobs. So you can see it, you can feel it, and just feel more in control of it, for sure. So keep the questions coming. I am just going to talk about a little bit about air quality as we go, and we're going to do some cleanup, because I promise I did not forget that question. So what other questions do you have, Robert?
There's a lot of questions about ventilation and how that is impacted by induction cooking. I think that's an excellent question to ask. That came from,
Absolutely.
I think, yeah, Peggy asked that question, but others kind of referred to it too. So that's a great question to ask. What happens with ventilation?
Definitely. Peggy, it is such an important question. So, you know, I talked about power and control. Safety and wellness are absolutely sort of that next level and equally important. You know, I talked about safety in terms of the heat. There's no open flame. I can talk about the fact that this doesn't get hot and can't light other things on fire, because again, there's all those steps. But there's also safety in terms of air quality. There have been some really, really telling studies about air quality, and Stanford, one of the most kind of famous being from Stanford, where they really saw a very, very strong correlation between gas inside homes, makes sense, right? And childhood asthma. So it is very true that when you are cooking with induction, you still want to have some ventilation. So that's why we have it on here. I don't want it too loud because I want you all to hear me. You still need some ventilation because you have a small amount of particulate matter, right, from the cooking, and you have some moisture, right? So you still have a little bit of that, but it is significantly less. What you do not have are all of the noxious gases that come off of when you cook with gas. You don't have formaldehyde, methane, any of those things. So there's a great graphic right there. So that is an enormous difference. So while you still use ventilation when you're cooking with induction, you don't need nearly as much. You don't need as giant of a hood or as much capture area. You don't need as much pull, which is often described as CFMs, which is your cubic feet per You don't need as much makeup air. You don't need as much air pulling into your place to put that air back in. So it's an enormous difference. So you still need ventilation. This is why, again, going to your kitchen is important.
You cut out there a little bit. To show.
Okay.
Storm.
Oh, the storm is affecting our internet. Okay, wow. Yeah, we have a so you still need ventilation, but it is a very different story. Let me get to cleaning and feel free. I'm going to clean, but did that answer the ventilation? So let me back up for a second.
I think so, yes.
Power and control, massive. That's what chefs think about the most. Safety and wellness, you are talking about fire safety, thermal heat, air quality, and then environmental safety, right? Those are really huge things. And then the efficiency, and then the larger scale environmental. So efficiency, I talked about a little bit, but this is enormously efficient. Not only, as I talked about, in the efficiency of that, this is over 85% efficient, as opposed to gas, which is about 35% efficient, meaning that all the rest of that is going off into heating up yourself and your kitchen and your pan, and making you use the air conditioning. But it's also more efficient because things happen that much faster, which is remarkable. So keep the questions coming. I'm going to show y'all some cleaning tips.
We have some questions too about the wiring, what kind of wiring is required, or can you use existing wiring? And kind of related to that is repair cost and reliability. So, all those things about you buy something, what's it going to cost to install? What's it going to cost to repair? What kind of reliability? A lot of questions about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great questions. So a couple of things. You can go at this. Let me talk about cleanup really quickly. You can use vinegar. Vinegar works really, really beautifully. It just cleans this right up because, again, stuff is not burning right on here. One thing that I like to use a lot in terms of just getting just a little grip on here. I love Barkeeper's Friend. And let me get my little, I have these wonderful Swedish cloths that a lot of people have that are kind of replacing the paper towels. So, and I was just cooking on this and it just cools down. It's still some residual heat, but let me just polish this little baby up. So if you've got a little bit of smearing or a little bit of oil cooked on, again, it's not nearly as hot as it's not going to cook on anyway, similar to the resistance electric. But Robert, to your question, when it comes to installation, so it's tricky if you need to replace gas, if you have the benefit of having some rebates, which I know that in our building decarb wrapped for this year, in our post, we talked about 51 states have applied for IRA rebates, which is really exciting. So there are lots and lots of rebates that can help you, because if you do have to switch out gas, it is pretty tricky. There's not always going to be a big power line behind your cooktop. So that's really hard. It's often you pull it out and there's maybe a 110 there. So it can be hard when, come on, just look at that. So it can be harder when it comes to upping that power. And then you have to make sure that that you have enough power in your box in general. So I think, Robert, you were saying like 100, you need about 100 watts for that, correct?
Yeah, 50,
I'm sorry, you need about 100 amps.
no, 50 amps is fine. That's what we did. There's now on the market. Yeah, there's now on the market a 110 volt version made by a company called Copper. And we'll put all that information when we send it out. Quite a few people around our area have them. They operate on 110 volts and they plug right into a regular wall socket. They
Yep.
get their power from having batteries in the bottom of the unit. So
It's amazing.
it is amazing.
Yes, we're very fortunate. Our Chefluencer team works a lot with the copper team, and they can take that out. It is a 30-inch range, so you can literally pull that gas out. You can plug it into 110, and as you said, it is battery boosted. There's also a company called Impulse that has a 110 cooktop. Wait till you see it. This is going to be over the next couple of years, you're going to see these 110 version units. And in our wrapped post of the year, we even talk about that there are 110 heat pumps. There are now heat pumps that can go in your window. They straddle your window, and they are your heat and air conditioning, and it's 110. So you're seeing incredible things happening. But currently, for a lot of people, it is a tricky thing to tease out if you need to replace all of that. So I'm really excited you were able to do it for 50. There are a lot of ways that you can figure that out. But again, you need somebody that's going to walk you through it. And I know you guys have advisors, correct?
We do. We have an ambassador program here in California, and they're also available in other parts of the country. We just did a seminar where we highlighted some of that, and you can find that information on the Elders Climate Action website, where to find coaches and where to find contractors. You had one question. You had one question about EMF, or about the magnetic radiation that might be coming off this induction stove. I don't know the answer to that. Do you?
Yes, I do. First of all, I always will say, I am not a doctor. This is my only outfit, chef. However, we have a really great post on the Building Decarbonization Coalition that really talks a lot about that. But the magnetic wave of this is very, very low, and it's not very strong. So you would have to get very, very physically close to this. But again, consult your own doctor. It is something that for newer devices and the newer inductions, it is not something that comes up as a concern for people anymore, but it is very worth it to check. Again, you'd have to get remarkably physically close to the unit, uncomfortably so. And I would not get that close to my gas unit either. But again, not to be flippant about it.
Indeed.
Yeah, I really respect that question, and it is worth looking into.
Okay, one question that we might touch a little bit more on, and that is, what does it cost to repair these units? And are they susceptible to repair? Some of them are fairly new. I think that's a great question.
No, it's a very, very good question. Thank you for asking that. And it's an important, one thing that it's important to find out if there are repair people in your area. One of the good news things that's happening is jobs. Climate jobs they are skyrocketing. And so we need more electricians, we need more repair people. The good news is that these are quite closed systems. So they do not need a lot of repair. One of my absolute favorite people in the world and one of the best appliance content creators on earth is Steve Scheinkopf. He is from Yale Appliance. I finally got to meet him when I moved out here. He has amazing blogs and content on yaleappliance.com where he talks about the incredible reliability. He's got a whole team. They have 6 appliance locations, and they have a whole team that goes out. So he's got some really hard data on this. So the reliability is really exciting on these. That being said, if you do find a way to break it, it can be a more expensive repair than gas. So really important question. I have yet to ever break any of these myself. And I'm not very soft and gentle with them. I use them very powerfully.
We have a comment from Pam, and she says that not to get too hung up on the situation with pots and pans, you will be surprised how many of the existing pots and pans you have in your kitchen will work. She said that they even have a camp griddle that will work on top of of the induction stove. I thought that was a very good suggestion. Just be looking
Yes.
around for that.
Absolutely. Pam, that is so true. I think it's a little like the EMF question where it's important, but I think it kind of becomes a bigger thing than how many people it does impact. But that's great. And I feel the same. Now, remember, with the magnet test, when you put that magnet to the bottom, that will still, it indicates that the pan will work, but some pans do work a little bit faster than others, or a little bit speedier. But again, it's so fast that I learned that because the Samsung unit that we got to work on when we were at the Energy Star meeting, it has a pan detection system built in, fancy Samsung, and it actually tells you the percentage of how well it works. So that was really interesting. So you're going to see some really, really exciting technology coming out.
Yeah, and I would add too that the stoves you mentioned, or the ranges, not all of them are expensive. There's some really good ones that are relatively good price points that are affordable by everybody. You can get real
Absolutely.
fancy. You can get real fancy on these and spend lots of money. What did that cooktop there cost, you think? The one
This one here, my husband Robert, who is producing this, he's the one doing all the camera work. Robert works for a wonderful company called Agrin Appliance. It is Maine's wonderful top appliance company, so he knows this really well. Yeah, so it is appliance and mattress company. This is a GE Profile cooktop. I believe this one's around 1900, but I'd have to find out. So this one has some nice fancy bells and whistles to it and a lot of power, but it's very nice. And as you pointed out, Robert, whether it's the plug-in units, the plug-in hobs, you can get them from $50 to, 200. There's a lot of commercial units that are plug-in units that go up thousands of dollars. There's big, huge woks from the restaurant world. There are also there's also cooktops, like we say, from less than 1,000, as you say, Robert, all the way up to like the Thermidor Freedom cooktop or the Gaggenau. They're very fancy. Those are definitely several $1,000s. And then
Bertolli is another brand. Bertolli.
Bertazzoni.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're very, I said that wrong. Thank you.
No
yeah, they're
problem.
very expensive. They're wonderful units. So
Yeah.
price points are available for just about anything you could want to do.
Yes, from 12 and 24-inch ranges all the way to 48. It's really exciting, and people are understanding now these can be used in traditional, transitional, and modern kitchens. There's a look for everybody. Viking has gorgeous units.
Two last questions. Last question and a comment. One question was about scratching. I think, what happens when they do get scratched? Things happen. So what do you do then?
No, that's a terrific question. Couple of things in terms of if they get scratched. This is very, as you go up in price point too, like they're stronger and stronger glass. So this is super, super strong glass, right? Number one. Secondly, so I don't baby mine at all. I'm a renter and I use my cast iron and do all my things, and I'm not worried about it at all. If you are, if you have like a real scritchy cast iron or something, you can actually, here, I'll show you. You can cook right through a towel if you want. It can't have plastic. It has to be like a cotton towel. So I can actually cook if you want to protect it that way. The best way to cook it if you have a really raggedy pan is to use a Silpat or a silicone mat. Silicone, can we see in there? Yep, just a silicone mat can go all the way underneath your pan. So I can take that cast iron pan, I can put a silicone mat underneath, and I can char and cook and do all the things. Oh, wait.
Single layer.
Oh, single layer. My husband's telling me use a single layer of towel. Cool. So you can use stuff underneath it if you choose.
I see a hand coming in from the side there.
I know. Production. Yeah, he's telling me to pull it back a little, like this, here, like that. Okay, so you can protect it that way, but I feel really comfortable using it. Keep in mind, when I was I know, this pan is too small for this unit. That's why it's turning off. Let me go over here. So that's a safety feature. So it's really interesting because if I have, say this is magnetized, right? And I put it on here, it's not going to get hot because there's not enough surface area for that. Okay, so there you go, and check it out. I can even put paper underneath. So size matters. Just kidding. So if you scratch, I'm not concerned about scratching it, but you keep in mind your gas cooktops and your electric cooktops get also very scratchy. I was a private chef for years, y'all. I used to be George Lucas's private chef. Yes, I was. And many other amazing people. And let me tell you, taking apart those grates and cleaning every night, that was hard. It was worth it because I love George.
Well, as we get near the end here, I do want to correct one thing I said or make it clear. We used a 50 amp service, a socket in the wall on a 200 amp main panel. You can do 50 amps on a 100 amp panel. You don't necessarily have to replace your electric panel. Want to get that clear?
Absolutely. Yep.
Well,
and different units have different power needs. So the Bosch and Thermador and Gaggenau family are 30 amp units, which is really exciting.
oh,
So I know
that's fantastic.
It is. And that's even for the full range. So you are seeing that change and come down. And you're seeing price points change and come down, and you're seeing a lot of technology being built in.
Well, I want to say one kind of last thing here. We do have resources in Elders Climate Action to help folks with this. It's on our website. We will be sending out information after this is over. We'll send you a link to this fantastic video that Rachelle did. And looking forward to more of this. But I do want to say something. I want to read something from an anonymous attendee. It says, Rachelle is an absolute star. Her energy and enthusiasm and her camera operator are great. It looks delicious. I can't think of a better way to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you all so much. And the last event that I did, I didn't eat the food. I don't have a fork. Is that rude? Oh, well, I don't care. It's my food. So, y'all, it's so charry and just super tasty. My garlic's not burned. I'm a garlic burner. I used to be. The mushrooms have all of that flavor. It's just yummy. This is going to be our dinner tonight. All
right. Well, it is near dinner. It is dinner time where you folks are. We very, very much appreciate what you've done, and I'll let you have the final word.
Well, I thank you for your kind and loving words. I love this work, and I really understand that it's really tricky. When you come up to people, you imagine, right? I am teaching we have this program called the Chefluencers that I talked about with the Building Decarbonization Coalition, and I'm standing in front of 16 chefs from all walks of life, and I'm like, we're going to go electric in the kitchens. They are like, I don't know, honey. Well, let me tell you, we train, we get on all the stuff, and we start talking about it. Within a couple of hours, the chefs are absolutely lit up, but not by fire. They are just so passionate. They're like, wait, I had no idea. So the kitchen, as I said, the Building Decarbonization Coalition, we work on everything from thermal energy networks. Oh my God, you guys got to read about that. Again, we'll send you that link, to neighborhood scale decarbonization, neighborhood by neighborhood. But for me, induction is the heart of my work, and it goes from being the hardest conversation to the thing where you just can't stop talking about it. And people become what I call the water boilers. Robert, I'm sure you're one of these. You just bring people over your house and you show them how quickly water boils. So that is enough to change hearts and minds. So I'm really honored to be here. I want to thank Building Decarbonization Coalition for letting me take the time to do this. My husband, Robert Roth, and come and visit me in Maine, y'all. I want you to see this beautiful kitchen.
Well, thank you so much, Chef. We very much appreciate it. You all take care.
Thank you all.